welcome back to another episode of the Tuesday Panic. I'm your host, Paul Turner, and today I want to talk to you about a news story, something that you may be able to use in what I'm going to use. I can tell you right now, I'm going to use this as the opening part of our worship time. And it's from the story of recently that you may have heard about the 21 Coptic Christians in Egypt there being beheaded. And so the story goes, if I give you a brief, if you're not familiar with the story, I will leave a link down below to the story so you can get to it. But the story goes like this, is that basically that at least 14 people in this video that the ISIS had shown, of these, there are 14 shown, but it is reported that 21 Christians, they were laid face down on the beach and they were beheaded there. But what I find interesting about the story is how ISIS addressed the Coptic Christians themselves in a letter here. And what they said was, says one of the militants, pointing a knife at the camera, calls the hostages people of the cross, followers of a hostile Egyptian church before the execution. That's the first time they mentioned that, the people of the cross. People of the cross. The second time they use the term, another caption for the video that they had put out said, "A message signed with blood to the nation of the cross." Now, I don't know about you, but that captures my attention. That really perks up my spirit because, you know, as we know from Scripture here, just a few scriptures, and here's what I'm going to read. I'm going to read this to my students and really talk about the cross and how the cross is still central to the Christian message. And that is why we're allowed to worship tonight. That is why we come to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords tonight, because of what he did on the cross. And the fact that these terrorists would call them people of the cross. And the scriptures are, if you're familiar with it, which I'm sure you are, Galatians 5:11 talks about, the Apostle Paul saying, look, if I'm being condemned, if I'm still being attacked, why am I being attacked? Because of the offense of the cross. The cross itself is an offensive thing. It's archaic in the minds of people to say, somebody died on a cross for me. How crazy is that? In fact, Galatians 6:14 says, the Apostle Paul says, look, if we're going to boast in anything, that we ought to boast in the cross. And then the third scripture here is from 1 Corinthians 1:18. It says, the message of the cross is foolishness to those that are perishing. So those three verses there encapsulated with this little news story here is how I'm going to launch into our worship time tonight. And I don't know whether I'm going to use images or how I'm going to put this together. Maybe you have some suggestions on that. I'd like to hear your suggestions. But the fact that even ISIS recognizes and says these are people of the cross, and I'm going to challenge my students, and maybe you want to challenge your students, is look, are we still considered people of the cross here in the West? In the West here, this Western culture we live in, would we be worthy of death the way these guys are being worthy of death? Or would somebody point us out and say, listen, are you guys people of the cross? And then suddenly we're in trouble because we're people of the cross. So anyway, that's how I'm using this. Hopefully you can use something like this in your youth ministry. If you have some suggestions, ideas, other scriptures maybe you might choose to use, or how to make this an introduction to worship, if you will, please leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Thank you for joining me today for the Tuesday Panic. If you are a regular, as always, I am grateful and thankful for the comments you leave. For every time you hit that thumbs up button, that lets me know you like the videos and you want more of them. Please be sure to leave me a comment down below if you have any suggestions of future topics, things that you'd like to talk about in the future on this channel. Also, if you are brand spanking new, thank you for joining me today. Hit the subscribe button right there if you'd like to get videos like this in your inbox, and you will get them there on a weekly basis. So anyway, thanks for joining me today for the Tuesday Panic. I'm your host, Paul Turner, and I will see you guys next Monday for Meant to Be Monday. But until then, have a great youth meeting. See you next time.